Okay, so some of you may have experienced issues with ZecWallet Lite recently, and that is essentially due to much larger blocks than used to be. The previous times in the past, we used to have only a few shielded transactions per block, but around blocks 1,700,000 and 1,000 and something, we have much larger transactions. So probably due to the result of an attack between codes on the network. So some people, some person or some group is creating large transactions. We can take a look at that by going to the to one of the block explorer. And look for the recent blocks. This is probably a better block explorer than this one. Okay, this one. So you can see here the size of the blocks. This one is 1 mega, 1.3 meg, 1.2. So they are fairly large. And if you once we click on the transaction on the block, so let's see this one, we can see that there are 4 transactions. The first one is the Coinbase, so usually it's a perfectly normal one. 1.3 is pretty large. So let's see this one. All right, it's okay. The block explorer here doesn't show you the actual data for Orchard transactions. It hasn't been updated yet, but it shows you only 1 input and 11 outputs. It seems to be low. Maybe another one is the culprit, because the total is 1.3 or 1.1. Okay, so this has 50 outputs. Still not a lot. Oh, here you go. So this one has 1,000 outputs. So this is an example of a very abnormally large transaction. Normally, the shielded transactions will have up like 2 or 3 outputs in inputs. This one has more than 1,000 of them. So lately, we have many of these type of transactions, and it's causing a lot of pressure on the traditional wallets, shielded wallets. And you may have seen that ZecWallet Lite is no longer able to synchronize with the blockchain. Nighthawk is also history. It will not be able to synchronize. So some of you may want to switch to YWallet, which handles this kind of load fairly well. So this is a guide for you. And but before we get there, let's take a look at ZecWallet Lite, because the way ZecWallet Lite and YWallet work is different, and there are things that you should know if you want to go from ZWL Lite to YWallet. Okay. So let's take a look now at the UI of ZecWallet. So that's ZecWallet, and this is what you will see if you start the application for the first time. So I think most of you have already a wallet, so I will create, but you don't need to restore, so just create a new one. And it gives you the seed phrase. So we have the same seed phrase between ZecWallet Lite and YWallet. So if you have saved this seed phrase, you are good to go. You will be able to import your account into YWallet and just manage your coins from there. So I'm gonna save this sentence. Well, I can see it again. So just start the wallet. Setting things up. Syncing. Why does it need to sync? Okay, what is syncs? Let's talk about Zcash. So in Zcash, the bot it's already finished. Okay, sorry, it's already finished. So we didn't have that much time. All right, so you have the dashboard. the first thing you see is that your amount of ZEC is separated in two. You have a shielded amount and transparent amount. So this is your total here, and you have, well, I have 0 shielded and 0 transparent. Then that here you I think normally you would have a list of transactions. That's already the first thing that we will see that is going to be different, is the fact that the ZecWallet Lite will accumulate, will show you the total between shielded and transparent. So there's somewhat equivalence between shielded and transparent, at least as long as ZecWallet Lite is concerned, that account will contain a shielded and transparent balance. Then when you receive something, you also have these two tabs, right? So shielded and transparent. And you can see that your shielded address begins with a Z and a S, ZS. Your transparent address must begin with a T, T1. Okay, and so that's that. And then there's also the button here that says new shielded address. So if you push this button, then you will get another shielded address. And you can repeat that, and you will have more and more addresses. When you click on one of these addresses, the wallet will show you the funds at that address. Right, so I have 3 shielded addresses here. Each of them has 0. But the total that I see on the dashboard here is the total of these 3 addresses. Of these 3 shielded addresses. And transparent thing, I can do exactly the same thing. I can create a new transparent address by clicking on this button. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 addresses. Or I have 5 transparent addresses and 3 shielded addresses. And again, if I choose one of these addresses, I would have the amount here. And also, I have this new button here. For shielded, since the transactions, all transactions will be hidden, a block explorer will not be able to see anything. So there's no button that goes to the block explorer. But for a transparent address, you can go and see that address on a block explorer. And let me copy that. And then you can see it here. So first seen, last seen, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this address has not been used. Therefore, there's not much information. The block explorer just knows that there are no transactions on it, and the balance is therefore 0. So the main difference between ZecWallet Lite and YWallet, we'll see, is that in ZecWallet Lite you have one account that has because you have one seed phrase. So if you go here, you can see the wallet seed. It's the same phrase as we saw in the beginning. But from that wallet seed, you can derive many shielded addresses and also many transparent addresses. And your dashboard here has a sum of all the funds that are in these shielded addresses and these transparent addresses, and then the final total. So this curve here would sum everything. Okay, so this is the main difference. And when we migrate from YWallet to ZWallet to ZecWallet to YWallet, this is not going to be the same, and this is the main source of frustration. The last thing maybe you need to know is that if you're using shielded addresses, you have to be synchronized, meaning that if you go to dashboard, well, is there a place where we can see the synchronization? Well, not really. So I guess it says connected here with a tick, green tick, means that you are synchronized. If you want to make payments or transfer transactions with the shielded balance, you need to be synchronized. If you need to do that with a transparent, there's a way to do it without being fully synchronized. but I guess it's a bit out of scope. All right, so now that we know that, let's see how it looks like in YWallet. So YWallet, in the first launch, you will see something like this. And then you create a new account. Okay, YWallet has different currencies. So you can choose Ycash or Zcash at the moment. So we choose Zcash. And I will name this one ZWallet Lite store. Yeah, so you can also have multiple accounts of the same same or different currencies from different seeds. So therefore, I have to check here for the seed, and then yeah, nothing to do. So I go back to this guy here. I'm just going to copy the seed from the other wallet, from ZecWallet Lite. Right, so this is the seed. I press import. And then it will ask me to, if I want to, since I'm restoring an account, if I want to restore from what date I want to restore. So if you want to restore an account that is shielded, the wallet has to scan the blockchain. And it needs to scan the blockchain from the date of the first transaction. So in this particular case, if there are no transactions, I could actually skip the restore. So I will just put it as today. Today is 22nd, 10, and then scan from today. Okay, so now we have here this synchronization going on. There's a little animation here. So we have the current height, which is this one, and this is the height we are synchronized at. Okay, when it disappears, we are synchronized. And again, we should also have a shielded address, which is a shielded site, and if you click on the code on the QR code, you will switch to the transparent side. So we also have shielded and transparent. Okay, and the address should match. So here I see it ends with FD. So let me switch to ZecWallet Lite and make sure that it also ends with FD. What's my address? Oh, this is a transparent side. Oh, sorry. Okay, so transparent side and FD. Yeah, this one is the same address. Here, this one here, and this one here are the same. Okay, so if I check now the shielded one, big UQ9 is the N, and in ZecWallet Lite, UQ9, this is the same address. All right. So the funds that you would have in ZecWallet, this address here, will be the same as the ones that you find here, this address, because they have the same key. All right, the problem will begin when you have several of them. So first of all, it's not really necessary in 99.9% of the cases to have multiple shielded addresses, because when you make a transaction on the shielded address, nobody can see the transaction on the blockchain. So the reason why we usually we create many transparent addresses is because they are exposed on the blockchain, and it's very easy for a system, an algorithm, or for any tool that does chain analysis to figure out that these addresses are, if you reuse the address, that you have made purchases in different places with the same address, right? But if the address is shielded, and therefore the transaction does not appear on the blockchain, it's impossible for anyone to figure out that you have made a purchase using that address. So in 99% of the cases, you don't need to have multiple shielded address, but you still need to do to use multiple transparent addresses if you are intensively using transparent addresses. If you are not ever using a shielded address, if you are never using a shielded address and only using transparent addresses, then all your transactions will be linkable. Right, so, and you're not actually using any of the particularity or any of the functionality of Zcash when it comes to privacy. So the approach, so here when you have several shielded addresses, and you were doing that because you were following some guidelines about not reusing addresses. This has actually a large impact on your performance, because every time you have an address, for every address that you have, the wallet has to try to decrypt every transaction based on the secret key, and each of these addresses have a different secret key. So I am here tripling the work that this wallet has to do, that my wallet has to do, in order to figure out these transactions. So it's as if I had three wallets here. There's no way for the wallet to directly figure out whether I have incoming or outgoing payments on this address. It has to try to decrypt every transaction, and that's not the same for a transparent address. If I have like 10 different transparent addresses, I can ask a server, like typically a block explorer or some central service, to give me all the information related to a given address, a given transparent address. And therefore, there's no additional cost in having many of these, because the work is actually done by somebody else. So the recommendation to have multiple addresses does not stand for shielded addresses, and you're mostly fine with only one. The only case is if for you want to have a different address when you receive a payment. So let's say that I have this address and I give it to Bob. Bob pays me with this address, but he just gives me a payment. He just says, okay, here's 5 ZEC. And I give the same address to Charlie. Charlie also pays me 5 ZEC. So without a memo, without any note, I just see an incoming payment of 5 ZEC to my address, and it's not obvious who has paid me. Is it Bob or is it Charlie? So one of the possibility, the usage of having different shielded address, is so that I can give to Bob this address, and then I can give to Charlie this address. But you can see this really doesn't scale well, because if I keep giving new shielded address, like one-time use addresses to everyone I transact with, I'm gonna end up with having a huge wallet. If I have 10 addresses, then my wallet is already 10 times slower than it should be, because every time there's a transaction on blockchain, which again 99.9% of the time is not going to be my transaction, the wallet has to try with this key, and this key. So again, if you remember the case of the very large transaction, this one, which has 1,100 outputs, each of these outputs will have to be trial decrypted. So this wallet will attempt to decrypt every one of these 1,000 outputs with all these 3 keys. So if you have like 20 keys, because you have created 20 addresses, this is going to be done 20,000 times. So you can imagine this is really very poor performance. So the alternative, if you just need a different address, is the concept of diversified addresses. So in YWallet, what we have instead is this, we call it snap address, but the underlying technology is called diversified addresses. So when you click on this one, this here, this will generate a new address. And you can use this address. It will actually be exactly equivalent and go to the same account as this one. So, and you can keep on clicking. Every one of the address that is generated by clicking on this DApp address will be valid forever. And even if I forget about it, because every time I click on this button, I will get a new address. And they're not going to be reused. So these addresses, I can give it to anybody. I don't care if that person doesn't use it or use it like 10 days later. That address will still be valid all the time, and it will come to this account. So it will be merged with this account. And when I go to my message history, not message history, when I go to my transaction history, I would have the address of that person here, the address I gave to that person here. And the beauty of these diversified addresses is that they have the same secret key. Therefore, even though the person who receives the address will see a different address than the standard one, the fund will be actually usable by the same secret key. Therefore, we only need to try to decrypt it once. So back to the example of these 1,000 outputs. Even if I created 100 of 1,000 diversified addresses, this would not change the number of times that I have to attempt to decrypt this output. I only have to try to decrypt each output once. So there will be 1,000 attempts, because there are about 1,000 outputs here, 1,100 to be precise. So therefore, we have say the perfect scalability, because the cost is the same whether you have 1,000 diversified addresses or one address. The cost for decryption is the same. The only case really where you want to have different addresses, addresses that are not diversified addresses, is when you have different businesses. So actually in this case, you want to keep the accounting separate. So you want to have an account here that sums to, for example, because you have a bar, and another one because you have a computer shop. So in that case, it will make sense to actually create several accounts, and we give that option in YWallet by going to the account manager. So we go here in the account manager, and then you can create a new account. So this one is for a bar. Right, and then you will get a different seed, and these two accounts are completely unrelated. They would have, so these two accounts here would work the same way as these three accounts here in ZecWallet. The only thing that ZecWallet does actually is summing the balance between these three addresses, but internally these are three different accounts. Again, using the same seed. So you may ask, well, it's using the same seed, so how come I can have three accounts? The fact is that if you have a seed, so let's say, for example, I'll go back to this account. So go back to this account, and I show you the backup. So the backup is the same phrase as before. I can also create a sub account. So in YWallet, this will be a sub account by going here and then pressing the plus and say sub account. Okay, so I'll create a sub account of the, and this account here will now have the same key as the next account in ZWallet. Right, so if you look at this address here, the second one, ZWLT, this is actually the same as this one, ZLT, right? So now I can create accounts in YWallet that match the accounts that you have in ZecWallet. And you only need to do that if, unluckily, you have already funds in ZecWallet Lite that you need to recover. Because again, that is not really, it's not the best way by far to use Zcash. So, and then you can keep doing that. If you actually need a third one, then we do the same stuff here. And I create another sub account. So let's create it as sub account 2. Not sub account, sub account. Okay. Go back to this one. And then we have something in YW3. And that's the third one, YW3. Right. So now I have created 3 accounts in YWallet to match the 3 accounts I have, the 3 addresses that I have in ZecWallet Lite. And if I synchronize, I would have the same money in both cases. All right, so now for the transparent stuff. So transparent stuff is actually working the same way because there's also a match between the first shielded address and the first transparent address, and second shielded address and second transparent address. But in ZecWallet Lite, I can create more shielded addresses than transparent addresses, or vice versa, which is not the case for YWallet. If you create one address or one account, this will create both a shielded address and a transparent address. So let's take a look and let's see. We already know that the first transparent address was correct, which was this one. And also their sorting is pretty weird. Okay, so let's see, my first account. Okay, my first account in YWallet was this one. And if I tap the QR code, I can see it's FD. So which one is FD? Yeah, FD is the second one here. All right, so let's look for, let's see, this one. No, let's look for RE. Let's look for RE. Okay, this is EH. And this is RE, so this is the one we are looking for. So you also may wonder why we don't scan in advance, right? Why we can't recover, why we make you create sub-accounts in YWallet and not figure out that you have created these accounts in ZecWallet Lite. The reason is very simple actually. It's because we don't know how many accounts you have created. Right? Since you are using, we expect you to use shielded addresses, and we don't know if you have used 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 of them. If we scan 5 addresses, it would be 5 times slower than the normal scan. I'm saying there's a cost, there's a significant cost in scanning addresses. So what we would like to do, is create all these accounts beforehand. So if I know, for example, I have 3 addresses in ZecWallet Lite, that you go and create 3 sub-accounts, well, 1 main account and 2 sub-accounts, and then you do a restore. Right? You go here and you say restore. And you do one rescan, you do a rescan. And you do one rescan from the time where the wallet was created. If you don't know when the wallet is created, it should show you a height, but if it has a height, you can enter the height, for example, if the height was 1 million, can enter the height in the block explorer, and it will tell you that this block was created on 2020 10/9. So if I restore, I can restore from 2020 and October and 9. Or let's do 8 to make it safer. Okay. And this will scan all your accounts at the same time. So you don't need to do the rescan. Once you have created all these accounts, you can rescan once. So you let the scan do this stuff. For the transparent addresses, though, there is a way to scan, because we can create all these addresses and consult a server, a block explorer or something, and figure out if these addresses are in use. And since there is no cost for us to do so, we can do an arbitrary scan. Well, not completely arbitrary, because we can't scan like 1 million addresses, because you have decided to create so many of these transparent addresses. So what we do is we scan until we start seeing addresses that are not used. So, and then when we see these addresses are not used, if there are a certain number of them that are all unused in consecutively, then we stop the scan. So by default, for example, it's like I think 10 or 20. If we see 20 addresses that are not used, then we stop. So this is the scan. All right, so let's see the scan. What's going on? You see that so far we're doing pretty good, right? We are 1.5 million already. But around 1.6, 1.7, this is gonna get way worse. All right, so in the meantime, I'll go back to ZecWallet. Oh, it was not showing. So I was showing the wrong window. All right, so that's actually good. Sorry. What I did was like to do a rescan, but let's talk about ZecWallet Lite in the meantime. Okay, what else do we need to say? I think this is actually the main problem. I mean, the main problem, the main challenge is the fact that the ZecWallet Lite has multiple addresses, and they don't convert directly in YWallet. If you only have one, then you're golden. If you really only have one shielded address but many transparent address, what you should do is so you have created your first account. So you have restored the first account. Okay, so this will be your first account. All right. You go to account here. You press the plus, and you say you scan for accounts. And it's going to scan the transparent addresses. So this is going to scan these addresses until it finds money, and they will all be presented here. So what? But we have no money, right? So it's good, nothing is shown here. And then you press OK, and all these accounts will be created for you. So that's much easier. The process is much easier if you only have used transparent addresses. If you have used shielded addresses, well, you have to create it by hand. But what I would do, right, is figure out how many shielded addresses I have created, and create them in YWallet in one go. Let's go see the. Okay, you can see this is still scanning, but we are at the 1.7 now. We're getting close actually. Now this is the part where the blocks are very large, and ZecWallet Lite and Nighthawk are. I think they both crash. You see the progress is much slower. Only like 20 blocks in one iteration. 65, 3, we need 200 blocks. No, 2,000 blocks. Yeah, 2,000 blocks. 600. 200, about 200 blocks per 100, 1,000. It's kind of hypnotic. Alright, so that's actually pretty much it. This is the end of this video. Yeah, we are synchronized. So I hope this guide will help you migrate from ZecWallet Lite to YWallet. Alright, see you.